Okay, we are on to really the last session here in our Connect to Our Family videos. Thanks for being a part of this. We're going to talk to you about our uniqueness here at Crossroads, that every church has sort of their own way of doing things and have some distinctives. So we want to talk to you about how we do things and how we operate here, and it may be familiar to you, maybe sort of unique to you, but let us kind of walk you through 10 distinctiveness of our church culture and our structure. The first one is that we seek to be led by spiritually qualified leaders. I tell people all the time, our Crossroads is 13 years old at the time of this taping, and we haven't been in existence long enough for people to have sway in our church because their family has always been here, and we haven't had enough money for people to be able to have their sway by giving certain amounts of money. But we seek to be led by spiritually qualified leaders. So in seeking to be led by spiritually qualified leaders, I want to break down for you who we consider to be a leader at our church. Number one is myself as lead pastor of the church. Secondly is the elder board that we have. Our elder team is typically 3 others, and I'm included in that team. And that the elders are one of our leaders. We have volunteer staff, we have part-time paid staff, we have other full-time paid staff, and of course all those staff positions are leadership roles. We have group leaders, small group leaders, Celebrate Recovery group leaders. All of our group leaders are considered leaders. We have Bible teachers. There's times that we do teaching by other people besides myself, and those are certainly leaders. And lastly, we have what we call team leaders, and lots of different teams in our church. Serving teams could be technical team on Sunday morning, or the greeting team, and all the different teams. Every one of those teams has a leader, and those are also leaders in our church. Our second distinctiveness in our church is that we have simplistic decision making. And this is one of my favorite things about Crossroads is we don't vote on everything, we vote on very few things. And so how that works here is every year, prayerfully, our staff put together a plan for ministry for the next year, prayerfully. Our elders also pray over that and give input and then approve the plan by the staff. And so we present that plan with that budget and with that calendar and with those goals to the congregation each year, and we do one vote a year. As a church body, as you're a member, you're now a voting member once you join, and the church will likely affirm or vote on that direction for the coming year. Our third distinctive is that we value children and students. We've always had a heart for not just our generation, but the next generation, and valuing putting resources and time and effort into not just making disciples of adults, but making disciples of the children and students in our church. Number 4, we want to champion unity. And as a church body, this is so important. And it's not just my job or the other leaders' jobs to make sure we stay unified. I really believe as a family, it's all of our jobs to champion unity in our church. And so champion unity, we're going to talk about it in a second, but it means things like refusing to gossip and going straight to somebody if you have a problem with them, and being prayerful and praying for unity in our church, and being quick to forgive those who have offended you. All those are part of our role and responsibility to champion unity in our church. Number 5, we support missions and church planting collectively. We really believe in the value of not just being a church that's about Jefferson, Georgia, or Jackson County, but ultimately be a part of what Jesus said, to go make disciples of all nations. And so we do mission projects and mission giving from the kids on the way up, that we support missions. And specifically, we're really putting a high value on church planting. We believe that as we plant gospel-centered churches, disciple-making churches, that we're not just doing something that goes away, but something that will have a lasting impact in a community and in the surrounding areas for generations to come. And so we put a high value in starting churches, training up church planters, and giving to church planting. Number 6, we practice church discipline when necessary. Church discipline. Now the only other time Jesus talked about the church, other than Matthew 16, which we looked at earlier, was Matthew 18, when he said, if there's a problem, if there's a conflict in the church, here's how do you deal with it. And basically Jesus' instructions to us is we would go directly to the person we have an issue with and try to work it out between the two of us. And then if that doesn't resolve it, then we find another person we trust and value, maybe a leader, someone that would sort of mediate that conversation, all with the intent that those two people would be able to reconcile and stay close and forgiven and in unity with each other. And then if that step doesn't work, he says, then the person who's clearly out of line needs to be taken before the church and try to lovingly corrected and brought back into fellowship in the church. And so we do practice that. Usually steps 1 and 2, after that people leave, but it's my heart's desire that somewhere, I don't care where it is in that process, that when we have conflict with someone else, that we be committed to what Jesus said and work through the steps of resolving that conflict together. Number 7 is we affiliate denominationally, and I'm not even sure that's a word, but we use it here in your packet, and that we do belong to a denomination, the Southern Baptist Convention. We are a part of that. We've been partnering with them, but more so, they have partnered with us and been a great ministry partner, not only on a national level under their name, but on a local level. We're part of an association that we're active with, and we've gotten a lot of value out of being a part of that relationship. We voluntarily are a part of it, and we just see so much value in being a part of it. Number 8, we ask you as you're considering membership that you would pray continually. There's a whole list we have from time to time. We put out a list of things you can be praying for Crossroads, but I would ask that you pray that we would stay true to the mission of Jesus, of being and building disciples of Christ. I would ask that you pray for the leadership, that God would protect us from harm, and that you would pray for other members in your small group, that you would pray for the ministries like children's ministry, Celebrate Recovery, Closed Closet, student ministry, that God's hand would be at work in our church. And so we ask that you would pray continually for us. Number 9, and this is where it may get a little different than other churches you've been a part of, but number 9, that we are guided by our elders. We're guided by our elders. And so the elders are part of the decision-making process at the highest level at our church. When we go to hire people, it's not just on me. We include the elders in that, and they ultimately have say in who we hire and fire. They can actually hire, well, they didn't hire, but they can actually fire me from my role if I were to get out of line morally or theologically or otherwise from the vision of the church. They have the right and the authority to do that, to protect the church from anyone, including myself. That is what they do. They oversee the overall budget and other things like that. They're accountability and a sounding board for me in lots of ways. They are shepherds, and so they were guided by the leadership of the elders, which is a distinction from the 10th and last part of our structure, is that we are led by our staff. And so where the elders are guiding, the staff are leading. And so the staff are really the ones that do the week-to-week ministry in our church, planning, raising up leaders, equipping people, implementing strategy, making sure things get done. That really falls on our staff. And so whether they're paid or volunteers, the staff are really doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of making sure ministry happens. I just want to share you what we envision for the future of Crossroads Church, and really our vision is just what does it look like when we accomplish the mission God has for us, to be disciples of His and to build other disciples. We think what that's going to look like at Crossroads down the road, like 2030. What we envision is that the people that aren't coming to church, aren't thinking about church, aren't going to come on their own, that the church is not supposed to wait for them to arrive, but that we are to go to them, that we are to bridge the gap from a God who loves them and whatever lie or misconception has kept them from that beautiful truth, that we are the church that is to go to them with the message and with the love of Jesus Christ, that we would see lives change, that we would see marriages restored, we'd see reconciliation happen, we'd see addictions broken, that our community would actually look different because the gospel of Jesus Christ has infiltrated so many lives. And the way we see God doing that is through a network of small groups. And we envision just small group after small group functioning in our church and in our community that are loving each other well, that are growing in their relationship with God, and that are going on mission together, so that everywhere people go, they bump into someone from Crossroads who's trying to meet a need, who's serving them, who loves them, and shares the gospel and the good news of Jesus Christ with them. When we see that happen, we'll see a tidal wave of love sweep over our community and do radical things and transform it into what Jesus intended it to be. We also envision a day where it's not just Crossroads, and we're beginning to see this, where there's actually a network of churches and network of ministries coming from Crossroads, and we'll see other church plants like Refuge, who was launched in the fall of 2019, happen, and that would be the normative thing happening, that we'll send out, that we'll just bring in, that we'll be a church that sends out people, not just locally, but globally for the gospel cause. So our last piece here is I want to walk you through what we call our family expectations. We said at the beginning of this that our family, God's the Father, and that we're brothers and sisters, and that our family has ground rules and our family has expectations. So we're just going to walk you through what we call these expectations together. Then the first one, if you're ready to take the step of membership, would be this: that I will protect the unity of our church by being a member of the family, acting in love towards other members, guests, and attendees unconditionally. By refusing to gossip, but instead seeking biblical conflict resolution according to Matthew 18. By not demanding that my preferences come first. I am a member of this church to serve others, not to be served. I can deal with any inconvenience and matters that just aren't my preference or style. That's how we guard the unity of our church. Number two, that you will share the responsibility of the church by being a messenger, praying for kingdom growth and inviting the unchurched to attend. By seeking to care for others, being a minister to those in need, and by warmly welcoming those who visit. All of us, even though if we're not on the greeting team, that we're looking for new people, looking for new faces, and welcoming and making sure they feel a part of our family. Our family isn't a closed group, it is a growing group and a growing family. Number three, that you will serve the ministry of the church by discovering your place of service and trying to involve yourself and your family in a place of ministry in our church. By being teachable, willing to be equipped and served and led by the leaders in our church, and by being a team player, developing an attitude of humility and a serving spirit. And number four, that you will support the testimony of our church by being a magnifier, engaging in corporate worship faithfully, by maturing in my faith, by making progress in the character and conduct of Christ. And then lastly, by being a good manager, growing and giving, to be consistent and generous as God intended. That's something for you to fill out, to sign, and to keep. That's not something we want back. That's just your declaration between you and the Lord, that that's the kind of church member, the way you want to function within the body in this family. And then lastly, I'll say we do have a form that we do want back, and that's called our membership application. If you're ready to join, you can fill that out, drop it by the church office. We'd love to have you be a part of our church family. Thanks again for being so faithful to walk through these videos. God bless you, and thanks for being a part of the family.